Well, good morning. Appreciate everybody taking the time to come to the class. As James said, I have been around for a long time. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the industry almost 35 years. I've worked with a lot of different people, and that's a positive thing in my mind. It's given me opportunity to exposure to a bunch of stuff. I'm honored to have alongside me one of our fellow employees in Sodexo, Jason. He's our quality individual, so he's going to hopefully do most of the talking today. I will share with you that it's my experience that whenever we do any of these kind of conferences, my objective is to make sure they totally take away something, right? I mean, it's always great when you come to these things and people tell you a bunch of stuff, you sit and listen for an hour and a half, but when you walk out and you go, that was nice, we want to make sure they hopefully walk away with a nugget or two that is something that you didn't know before. And it's also, please make it interactive, right? So if we say something that, you know, you do differently, you interpret differently, we can all learn. I don't know everything. Some people think I do, but I don't. So please share that with us, okay? The other thing is, real quick, I want to just take a couple of seconds out. I want to introduce, we're very fortunate, Kelly Proctor's here from EMD, right? So physical environment technical advisor. Sector. Here we go. So we're very fortunate. And so what we've done is we focused on CMS and Joint Commission because that's mostly what we deal with. But I've asked Kelly in particular to, whenever there's something that's a little bit different in terms of the DMV, he's going to raise his hand and point that out to us. So thank you very much for being here. Mr. Jason.
Thanks, Dave. Good morning, everyone. Stay up too late a little last night. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. Nice. So with Sodexo, we start off every meeting with a safety moment. So I thought this would be appropriate for the content. Again, the best way, and it's not always the best way to know your exits. Sometimes safety is about quickly getting away from an unsafe situation. Notice the way in is not the only way out. So anywhere, again, when you're in public spaces, hotels, make sure you know where your fire exit is. If you're staying in a hotel or whatever hotel you may be staying in. Again, there's 2 exits here, just in case we do have an event. Please nobody run out halfway through pressure board, but I would appreciate that. So we're going to jump right in. CMS has an implementation guide they place out on a routine basis whenever anything changes. So we're going to run through that. We're going to compare and contrast with the Joint Commission, and we're going to have some DMV interjection on this. So in order to ensure an acceptable level of safety and quality, notice safety and quality is going to be a main theme throughout all of Joint Commission, DMV, and CMS. That's our major focus. It's safety of the patient, safety of the user, and the quality of products that we put out. So the hospital must identify equipment required to meet its patient's need for both day-to-day and case of emergency. How many people were here for Harvey? How many of you guys had to deal with Hurricane Harvey, the aftermath of flooding? How many of your hospitals were truly prepared for Harvey? Anybody have any road bumps they'd like to share? I was on the island. I worked at UTMB at the time, and we were high and dry. Everybody else was a little bit underwater. I'm pretty sure some of you guys can remember that. They were actually shipping patients to us, which was really odd in a hurricane to have them come to an island. So we use partners, especially in the Houston area. I think we have UHS. I'm not sure what their name is, to augment our services. And you should have a game plan, not only to cover what your normal patient load is, but an influx in case of a mass casualty event, natural disaster. Again, it's about working with your local vendors on that to ensure that you have enough to meet the need. So, environment of care, EC. Implements the process to identify safety and security risks associated with the environment. Takes action to minimize and eliminate safety and security risks, hospital maintains all-around equipment, and responds to product notice and recalls. Now, I've seen a lot of deficiencies as far as the way people respond to hazard alerts and recalls. Is anybody not using a service such as a X-ray or only relying on the OEM to send out FDL recalls, anybody only relying on that? No?
So is it, everybody's either doing ECR or Erasmus or something along that line, right? So one thing I wanted to just point out in the last, one thing I want to point out in the last slide is what's important to me is, and I think it's critical that a lot of people interpret this differently, and I guess I'd appreciate anybody that does interpret it differently to let me know. Look, we go back to one slide. If you look at this thing right now, and again, a lot of this stuff may be rudimentary, but when you talk about equipment that needs to be in your program, and you're making sure that it's on your inventory, everybody understands it's regardless of whether you're actually doing the service, right? So whether it's under contract with somebody else, whether the department is separated out, and you don't even have anything to do with it, whether it's in your laboratory, you still have to have an inventory that's reflective of everything that's defined by those three terms. So I just want to be clear about that. Because a lot of times people don't understand, well, if I'm not taking care of it, I don't have to have it in my inventory. That's not an accurate statement.
It's true with DMV as well.
It's not 100, well, it's probably, it's not exactly 100%. With hospitals, the hospital is supposed to have an accurate inventory of all the medical devices. It does not say CE will have, or HTM will have 100% of all devices.
But they expect that we're going to do that. Yes, somebody did.
Can you talk louder? You can hardly hear you back here.
Great, thank you for telling us that.
I think it's yours.
Jason, yours, please.
Is yours on?
It's on, just makes volume up a little bit.
Can you put it on your lapel?
And no one's ever accused me of being soft-spoken. Yes, sir.
I know you said that other entities within the hospital can do the inventories. What I'm thinking of specifically is home health, because we only maintain their trilogies. Everything else is done through a home health kind of provider. And they use a CPR Plus program. So I have chosen to withhold that from our CMS, and they maintain their own database.
Okay, so I'm gonna hear how I respond, and I'll look at Kelly, I'll look in my eye and see if he shakes his head this way or this way. My perspective and the way that I've always dealt with it in my career is, if an inspector, DMV, Joint Commission, whoever, HVAC, whoever, were committing, if they would be included in that survey process, then I would make sure that they're included in my inventory process.
That's right. The way we look at it at DMG is if you've got a service that falls under your CC and your Medicaid, Medicare provider number, then all the equipment in that service that goes to the patient or touches the patient needs to be on that inventory.
Okay. So again, you can have entities that are bolted onto the hospital that would not be included in that process, and you don't necessarily need to include them. But you need to make sure you're very clear on that to make that delineation. Yes, ma'am.
So would we say all the equipment that includes suction regulators and flow meters?
So if you look at the definition, this is why I'm telling you, a lot of people really, if this is, everything that we're going to talk about today is, let's be really clear. It's really his interpretation and my approval of that. And I don't mean that to sound the way it sounds, but every single person in here, I guarantee you, let's just say for sake of discussion, there's 50 people in here. If I asked you all to define something, we'd have 51 different responses. And that's the problem that we got. CMS creates something, Joint Commission, DMV, HVAC, and others interpret that in some form or fashion. Your hospital interprets it in some form or fashion. You interpret it. It's like the telephone meeting. By the time it actually gets down to you, and then, oh, by the way, then there's an inspector that comes in who interprets it just a little bit differently than even the people that created it in the first place. That's when you run into problems. And my philosophy has always been in life, I'd rather be safe than sorry. And so again, to answer your question specifically, if I can prove that it falls into one of those three things, it goes on the inventory. Now, as we get into the conversation later, we can talk a little bit about AEMs and things like that, but you understand.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I ran into this in Colorado, the lab kept the inventory of their glucometers. Well, they got dinged because we didn't have them in our inventory.
I'm telling you.
So we had to put them in, and we had to come up with a mop or something, a checklist. We check them every 6 months to make sure the inventory is there. Are you seeing the process of any software updates? So they did make us do that, even though the management plan said we did not manage the lab.
It doesn't matter. Your management plan can't supersede this location. That's your problem.
One of the things you need to remember with DMV is because we require all of our clients to be ISO compliant or certified within 3 years. Even if the equipment doesn't fall under here, if it needs to be calibrated, you guys pay attention to that because that's a real weakness with a lot of our hospitals is equipment that needs to be calibrated.
Mr. Nolan.
Yeah, just to answer her question, because I'd like to hear Kelly's interpretation. So she spoke about suction regulators, flow meters, and things like that, which we do not inventory, but we do have an inventory number associated with those devices in the event that they need to be serviced. So when they come new through the door, they go to respiratory therapy, we don't inventory those. They get put into use. If they break and we're repairing them, we document everything. Even if we exchange them, we document everything. That's to the extent, just to help you with your explanation, is that D&B acceptable?
On flow.
Correct, yes, yes, it's low.
It's just proving my point. Everybody, again, it's just great. There's 20,000 different ways to get to where you need to be. Just make sure you're really clear, exact as to what you're doing and why you're doing it.
That's a great topic.
Yeah.
That's one of the.
You spend the whole day.
devices that-
Well, I think the best thing said is better safe than sorry.
Well, I mean, and look, they're not easy to keep track of. We all know that. But, you know, if you put a program in place and do it. You know, going back to your lab example, right? So your hospital could be doing commission or D&D, but your lab can cap. And it's a whole different world into itself. I think it works here.
All right, so all equipment must be inspected and tested to perform performance and safety before and after major repairs and upgrades. So every device you have on your inventory should have an independent inspection prior to placing it on patient or any patient use. All equipment must be inspected, tested, and maintained to ensure the safety, availability, and reliability. A lot of these are going to sound very repetitive. I'm sorry, I'm not going to read them word for word. But the equipment maintenance activity must be conducted using hospital personnel, contract services, or combination of both. Individual responsible for overseeing and development they must be qualified. And we're going to go with qualifications here shortly. The hospital maintains records of all hospital personnel qualifications and is able to demonstrate how it ensures all personnel, including contract personnel, are qualified. So, before and after, right here, new change for CMS in 2018 is the finally adopted NFPA 99 2012 edition, which says all patient care related electrical equipment used in the patient care rooms is tested in accordance with 10.354, 10.36 before being put into service and after any major repair. So, is anybody not doing electrical safety during their planned maintenance? Anybody want to admit it?
So, ding.
We got one.
I just want to tell you, this is one of the nuggets that I'm telling you we're going to walk away with today. But before we spring it on you, Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, we comply with this statement, we do not do electrical safety during the end.
Okay, so you want to explain why? That's where I was going to go, but please feel free.
Sure. Well, when this came out, yeah,
It was just adopted, but it's been out for a while.
yep. And we immediately put that into our medical equipment management plan. And only unless we see trends that dictate that the device would need an electrical safety inspection during the preventive maintenance.
So how many people are aware of this? How many people actually knew that you no longer have to do electrical safety inspections during the PM? I mean, this, now the question is, how many people are actually putting that into the process, into the program? Well, congratulations. A lot of people are already doing it. Man, just think about this. You got 10,000 devices, it takes even 5 minutes, could be 10 or 15. And you multiply that out, you're dropping half an FTE to an FTE in your facility. It's some great stuff.
So it allows us to shift the focus and get some of the higher end technology, radiology, clinical lab equipment, with that time saving, right? That we normally don't look at.
See, I'm telling you, so if you didn't know that, great, I hope you learned something here. If you do know it, hope you're using it and implementing it. It's a great opportunity. To me, it's helping me understand and believe that CMS may actually have a little bit of a sense of what we're doing and understands our industry a little bit and giving us a little bit of a break. So congratulations for us yesterday.
Hey, Dave, Craig, California.
What about state regulations, state deadline?
California has not adopted.
So I think if you're all familiar with the rules and regs, right, the first thing they say is, this is what you have to do unless somebody tells you differently. And in this case, California, New York, there's a couple of states that mandate they have to do it. I can tell you that we're trying to push back and fight on it. When I was with TriMedics, we were successful to push back in the state of Indiana. So they released it and changed it a little bit. My suggestion would be that if it's a mandate in your state, try to help them understand that it's not necessarily a legal requirement, and maybe we'd like maybe go California probably.
I've done a lot of research for the state of California. The Title 22 kind of governs this. They actually reference an AB guide from 1980.
It's like 70 something.
It's 74, yeah, I believe it is. So they really haven't updated their interpretations. However, they did actually include a section where if your hospital performs a risk assessment and it deems that it can accept an FPA 99-2012, then you're golden. You have to be able to show inspector your risk assessment, so your hospital's risk assessment. But I would push for it. A lot of savings.
So we have 5 hospitals in California, and I'd like to hear Kelly's interpretation of them. I don't use PM stickers in my program anyway. And we had a surveyor from the state that said, no, you gotta use PM stickers on your equipment. Nancy was down in the south. And we said to her, we pointed at the state regulation. She said, well, it's Nancy's rule. And I said, you can't do this. We still don't do TM stickers, but is D&B also on board?
Yeah, we don't follow Nancy's rule. If all we require is that the end user know that the medical equipment is safe to use. Whatever your process is for that, that's what we need to make sure that your staff know that process and that they adhere to it. There's nothing that says you have to have a sticker on. Whatever your process is, as long as it's effective, that's what we're looking for.
That's great. And, yeah, I've seen that. So, I've seen them use Excel spreadsheet for like a last.
Yeah, the key thing though is making sure the end user knows that that equipment is safe to use.
They have a process in place to know that it's.
Typically it's a sticker, but it doesn't have to be.
All right, so you got EC24, inspects, tests, and maintains equipment. I'm going to have to change size of this. So the Joint Commission calls this out a little different as far as what the DMV does or the CMS. Defining high risk, non-high risk, clinical equipment. The AAM policy, documents inspect test for non-high risk must be 100%. There's nowhere in DMV that I've seen where DMV calls out 100%. You will perform maintenance, I believe is what DMV says.
That's right. So perform maintenance, it's up to you to determine what your completion rate, your goals are. Most hospitals don't want to be promoting themselves and say, hey, we do 80% compliance on our maintenance, but we expect typically 100% on critical equipment, and whatever your goals are, as long as they're approved and within the national average for non-critical.
But you have a question?
I had a question on the previous slide. Does that also include device deployment?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, once it comes into your responsibility, you have a responsibility for your program. And so that's one of the things that you all need to think about. What do you want to include and allow in the hospital, right? So the last place I was actually working at, we made some money. We couldn't, unless you needed it for a medical condition, you couldn't bring anything from home. That was just a policy we had. So first thing I want to ask is, how many people actually have an AEM program? Okay, surprised there's not more. Here's my second nugget, if you will, that I want to share with you guys. Several of us got together with the AAMI, I'm sure you guys all know who it is. And we've actually submitted, I don't know if you know this, but we submitted to the Joint Commission of the CMS that we're trying to put windows around. When you say something can be done on an annual basis, you know, it's supposed to be done in that month. Well, we've actually submitted a proposal to CMS to try to get 30 days before and 30 days after. So that would help free up a lot of stuff and do a lot of things. and we submit the whole thing around what you do on a semi-annual, every other year, your annual. I don't want to give you specific details in case it doesn't get passed, but.
We put it right in our standards.
So that's great. So, I mean, I've always been, I had an issue with having in 30 days. I mean, how ridiculous is that? So hopefully, Joint Commission's already said, bless what we proposed. They're going to be the ones that are going to take it on our behalf through maybe up to CMS. So keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully that'll bring back value for all of us.
Also in here, it doesn't say anything about use and, application kind of thing. It seems just like it's understood.
You're absolutely correct. Joint Commission will not put out anything official that says it has to be 100% of everything, or that in repair, in use, could not locate as an exemption. They haven't done that. I don't think they're going to do that. If they have, I haven't seen it. However, again, you are not going to find it in CMS where it says 100% either. Their interpretation guidelines do not say 100%. They said you will perform plant maintenance or you will perform maintenance on these devices.
The Joint Commission's the one that made that tweak. But again, I'm sure everybody here knows, and is actually doing, right? You had a choice through your medical equipment management plan to implement the program that you want to do. So you can decide if could not locate in use, out for repair. You decide what that looks like, and that's how you would change 100%. But I will tell you this is my own opinion as well as I believe strongly, is whatever you say you're going to do, you need to do it. And if in fact you're going to, have a process for getting rid of things, you need to follow that as well.
I'll tell you one of the weaknesses that I see a lot in hospitals around the country is when reports are sent up to the EOC or to the quality management, the biomed reports, and it shows the PM completion rates. If I see a PM completion rate at 100%, and then I see I cannot locate at 5%, there's a problem. And I'm seeing that a lot. The numbers don't match up that way. If you're going to have a cannot locate to do maintenance on, you need to separate that out and report it out to leadership so they know that 5% did not get maintained because you couldn't find it. But a lot of times they're just looking at that completion rate and signing off on it and saying, great job.
So to your point, Kevin, the way we do that is we basically allow could not locates out for repair and use. So what we show is what we completed, and then we show a total of each of the others, and at the bottom over the end, we show the 100%. So you can see how we get to the 100% because we've managed the whole thing, but we show the breakdown.
We have a compliance rate versus a completion rate. So you can complete 95%, but you're going to be 100% compliant with what TJC says because you're accounting for all of your devices that are due for plant maintenance. And it's really about accountability for those devices. So, documents, conducts tests, maintains all sterilizers. Now, Joint Commission, this is where I think they kind of deviate from DNB. Is Joint Commission adds a little more detail, and basically all of it really reiterates the same thing over and over again. Documents with forms and specs, chemical biological use of hemodialysis. We can keep going. Hyperbaric, nuke med, CT, PET, MR, nuke med. This is the one difference that I've noticed is the anesthesia delivery system. This came out last year from the Joint Commission. So before the device is returned to service, connection, each connection needs to be verified for gas flow and O2 analyzers to verify oxygen concentration. In areas where oxygen equipment is serviced are clean, free from oil, grease, and other flammables. Is everybody's biomed shop free of these? Just wondering. I haven't seen one yet. Now we do. When I left UTMB, they did free as a very nice workspace in the OR to take care of anesthesia equipment. So, but if you don't have a newer, I guess, shop, this is going to be hard to complete. However, what does clean mean to you? That's an interpretation. What is clean? Clutter-free, or does it mean no dust? So, thank you. And again, this shows where the Joint Commission this year also accepted the NFPA under the 2012 edition. So, back to CMS. Individuals responsible for overseeing the development, implementation, and management of equipment maintenance programs and activities must be qualified. Hospitals maintain records of hospital personnel, demonstrate how they, all personnel, including contracts, are qualified, and equipment maintenance policies, procedures, and programs, as well as specific equipment maintenance, inventories, activities, and schedule, following the purview of the hospital clinical maintenance personnel, safety department personnel, or other personnel who have been assigned responsibility. That's a lot. That's enough. We'll need some water before it's done. So, we're going to move on to the joint commission on this one. Leadership identify individuals managing risk. To all our site managers or account managers, leaders. So you are responsible for managing risk at your facility. Or if your systems director and your open you're responsible. Library of information. Everybody get 100% of all their equipment, inventory, literature wise.
Who makes the assessment in your organizations as to what the risk is? You do that on your own, you do it in conjunction with the EOC, you do it with the department heads. How is that done in your organizations? Anybody got a way that they think is best that you want to share this?
We did it as a system-wide process. And review, use the CMS description.
That's great. I think that's great. I you know, what's interesting to me is, and the way you see, I'm kind of a funny guy. Anytime somebody says anything to me, I automatically start thinking about, well, what does that really mean, right? And so the first thing for me around this is, so you want to start talking about minimizing risk. The risk associated with what? Right? I mean, a defibrillator could be something that would be maybe a risk, or it could be an MRI, it could be CT, it could be because it's the only one in the facility. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that can play into this that need to be thought about. And I dare to say, and I apologize if I step anyway, I dare to say not many people think about it in all of those terms. And that's where I think we get caught off, because inspectors come in, they have a perspective, they have an opinion, and you know, if we hadn't anticipated that, it causes an opportunity for them to want to dig a little deeper. Fair?
Yeah. So this bottom one, hospital has a written plan for managing medical equipment. That's no requirement, right?
We do. We don't call them medical equipment management plans or management plans. We say you have to have processes, policies, and procedures in place, and then you do an annual evaluation.
I know there's a lot of news right now, or we still need a MEMP. I mean, most MEMPs are high-level overviews of what's in their policies. I guess it's more of a warm and fuzzy for hospitals.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem we see with these on the biomed side is a hospital who contracts their biomedical services out to a major company. They'll have their, the hospital will have their own medical equipment management plan, then the company comes in with theirs, and they conflict with each other. And sometimes the hospital doesn't know that the contracting company is using their own medical equipment management plan. So then we come in and review it, and we see a conflict, and that becomes a non-conforming.
Yeah, that would be a problem. I mean, really, that would be a major problem. I've always, I just throw this out there, I guess I just see by show of hands, but I've always had, there's two MEMPs in my world. There's the MEMP plan, which is typically a high-level overview that you feel that you are actually providing as a service that anyway, it's your elevator speech, doesn't have to be more than a page or two, but it's a high-level overview that really wraps up what it is you say you're going to do for your program. To me, that's really important. So I know you say you don't need it, but I think it's a every year you should evaluate, is this what I'm doing, am I supposed to be doing, am I doing? And then there's the MEMP, and I say, that's the program. And so that's my policies and my procedures, that's my processes, that's who am I going to do what, why, when, where, and how, it's the detail around how to get there. And to me, if you do those, you look at them on an annual basis, you're continually reviewing them and making sure that they're pertinent to what you're doing, you pretty much are. I mean, you know, it's, if you're getting through the EOC, giving people an opportunity to get engaged, just get out, it's their choice. But at least it's there, it's a roadmap, and it helps your staff understand what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. So that's my perspective.
Yeah, we would take that. I mean, that's fine. We just want you to make sure you're meeting the requirements in a safe, effective, legal manner. We're not prescriptive, so how you do that is up to you, except for when the standard itself gets prescriptive, even if it's a COP.
Yeah.
All right, so, MEP, what should be in your high-level overview of your program? So, Sodexo, we are an outsourced company. So, this is based off of how we visualize it. The objective should include objectives outlined in how your department will support a safe patient care and treatment environment by managing risk. A scope, define your scope of your program, who supports or represents the program, influencers, committee members, etc. A crosswalk develops performance with your department policies. Now, we call that out because sometimes a policy, they don't accept a policy and they want to use a local hospital policy. So we cater our MEP to marry up with the hospital so that we are all on lockstep with what the hospital's plan is for what they said. It's perfectly acceptable for you guys to reference a EC and then reference your own hospital policies of that. So, and performance. So list and define quality monitors and goals associated with continual improvement. So for the performance indicators should not be something that you're going to report on every month that you're at 100%. Why? What are you improving? I do not mind personally seeing a performance indicator, a goal of 80%. If you're at 50%, as long as you're showing me how you're improving, I want to improve the quality and safety for that hospital for whatever I may be measuring. So it needs to be something that you're going to build on. Don't pick a target every year because you know you got this one in the bag. You know, there's no way we're going to get over 3% operator errors when we have, 2,000, 3,000 work orders a month. It's just not, it's not going to be feasible. So pick something that's actually going to help improve, the HGM sector for patient care and for equipment. So,
Yeah, we want you to be meeting your goals, but also show improvement. If you're hitting 100% on something every single time that you're measuring and monitoring, change it. Unless there's a law that says you got to measure and monitor it, change it because you're not improving anything.
what are some goals that you guys have that you're currently working on that you're not exactly where you need to be, but you realize that there's an issue in your facility and you want to track and trim that? Anybody got any great?
One of the things is, and I'm sort of new to my facility, but there's a lot of unable to locate everything. And I'm wondering about that. So we're starting to track on a monthly basis how many we get and see if we can get some improvement on that. One of our policies is that you need to look for it 3 times. Well, that's fine, but when you got 25.
Define that.
Fine.
Define that. What do you mean by look for 3 times? I mean, for the next 3 days, you're going to physically just walk around?
No, to take this, you should document the day he looked for it.
But I guess you're only, it's interesting, and I'd like to hear everybody's feedback on this, right? So that's a typical response. It's most people say, we're going to have to go through 1 PM cycle, or we're going to look for it for 90 days, and then we're going to go ahead and deactivate it or retire it. And we have a policy that talks about how we can bring it back to the program. I would just like to ask, how many people, seriously, the month is over, we closed it out, we said we couldn't locate it. How many people actually physically go back and try to find it? Okay, great.
Then for our department at Children's University of Kansas City, that becomes the shop manager's responsibility once it leaves the technician's hands after the 30 days. We do a three cycle, but it's 3 months after it was due. Some people I talk to do a year. If you don't find it the next year, then it's considered gone.
Yes, it's typically, like I said, I'm betting 95% of people in the room see it's either a 90-day window, which you're supposed to keep looking for it, or it's 1 full PM cycle, which could be every 6 months or every 12 months, depending on what it is. And then in which case they retire it. But my feeling is that regardless of what you're doing, I'm not here to judge it, whatever you want to do. But the one thing that I would say to you is that I think is most important, and I think this is what the Joint Commission and DEP are trying to drive to, is are you going upstairs and having a conversation with the department that owns that piece of equipment? Are you engaging them in the process? Are you asking them to partake in looking for it? Because that's, I think, what the most important piece of this.
Yeah, we see that a lot. And I've been at least 85% of our hospitals would go in and we might be there for 2 days, maybe 3 days, and we find at least a few pieces of unable to locate equipment while we're there. That tells us somebody's not really going out looking for it, you know, like you said. We want to see if you're unable to find this equipment, what are you doing to improve? And a lot of times we hear, well, we send an email to the department leaders. Well, how's that working for you? It doesn't work very well. What else have you done? Well, that's about it. ISO forces you to change that. It forces you to change your corrective action plan when your corrective action plan is not working. And that's why ISO works so well in healthcare. If you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and not getting your results, you're not going anywhere. It's just wasted time. And the other thing is leadership needs to know about that. If leadership is accepting that same old corrective action plan that's not working, then they're failing.
That's a great point. You know, the thing I follow up with that is that in candor, if you're allowing it to just continue to do it over again, then you're not really being proactive, and that's shame on you. Yes, sir. There's two ways. So
Number are you using over for
Measuring and monitoring in Cloud 7.
what's the actual series?
9001, 2015. ISO 9001, 2015.
One of the things that we did most effective was emailing. Emailing all of the all the hospitals. Other departments did one, all the management eyes on your department, and it seemed like we got a lot of action.
great.
And that's one of the things I said,
That's
so fortunate to have
Yes.
is leadership behind it.
So another good solution to think about is senior leadership to finance it. What we do is you can give a coupon out. You have at the elevators, we have monitors that show different things going on, initiatives in the hospital. And we'll put up, hey, we're looking for these devices this month. And if you find these devices, and it's one to look, you get a free meal or a free cup of coffee down at the cafeteria.
That's what we do. We're a third-party company. We've had exactly the same thing. DMV has found the equipment. You know, we can't find it, but they come in and they find
I'm not
it. So we made warning posters and put them up around our
I'm not
hospital.
about bribing. I've made wanted posters. I have offered candy bars.
We need to take stickers. You know, if you can find a sticker you're looking for, you got a Snickers candy bar.
And whatever you guys got to do to make the corrective action plan work, that's what you got to
Well, we
do.
just found out the nurses were ordering so they can get Snickers, so I didn't.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot cheaper to buy the stickers than it is to send them home.
It is, an hour's worth of searching is not more expensive than a Snickers bar. All right, so staff familiar with their roles. Make sure that our staff are responsible for maintenance inspection. Another role and receive continuing education training. Is everybody getting continuing education training program?
The rest of you look, but I can't put a mic on.
That's one more time. All right, so everybody got a great continuing education program and training built for their technicians?
Not yet.
Not yet, we're working on it. That's one of the leading drivers behind between going from an in-house program to an outsourced program. Is in-house programs get their budget cuts because it's just training. And then you're not trained anymore and you guys fall back. Next thing you know, you're using contracts. Next thing you know, we come in and we bid cheaper. So get the training plan in. You're in-house, right?
Yeah. People have competency test tools. They actually go on an annual basis and go through every technician. I mean, it is a requirement, right? I mean, you can define what that requirement looks like for you. But, I mean, it's a mandate that you're supposed to be able to demonstrate that the people that are working on the equipment are competent to be able to work on that equipment. So you have to define what that looks like for you. We've done it. Actually, Jason is basically in that level dating the back here in this project that works with us. They spent a lot of time putting together a competency sheet. And it gives us the ability to actually go through and check individual line items for individual people, score them, give them growth, and then it goes into the professional development. So we have something to have grow with, and we document all that, and that's how we help more people through that process and through that tool.
So this right here, receiving continuing education training, doesn't mean you're going to have to send everybody to a service school or, you know, OEM, you've got subject matter experts already in your shop that are already trained and know what they're doing. You can have them, you know, train internally, different class. That still counts for training. It improves your overall efficiency of your department. It allows younger biomeds to grow their knowledge base so that they will be, again, you can leverage them to drive down the cost of your program.
These kinds of classes are a good example of training as well.
What did you say?
These kind of classes, you can count those as well.
Yeah, usually with better people, but yeah, these kind of classes. Yeah.
So, who's qualified? Clinical engineers, biomedical equipment technicians, imaging service engineers, and other service engineers that deal with medical devices are qualified as far as working on devices and actually risk assessing the device. If I am not competent to risk assess a device at a local program, I can reach out to my subject matter expert for assistance on looking at, can we put this on AEM? Is it wise to put this on AEM? You're the one with specialty, you went to the OEM training, I'm going to rely on you. So you can actually rely on the people that work for you to help with your AEM assessment. Because if you know everything, I'm sure I can get a job opening to bring you on board. So, all right, so recommended qualification for record keeping. So a copy of the following items should be maintained for each one of your employees: current resume, college transcripts, degrees, and certificates, training from OEMs and third parties that attend, internal hospital department specific training, and a current competency assessment. So has everyone got a current competency assessment for all of your employees? It is required by CMS that you show your people are qualified to do the job they do. It is an absolute necessity. I think you guys also agree with that as well.
We do as well because we follow CMS as well, but our interpretation of that is you show us what you require for your techs to be competent. If you show us what you require in the job description, then you show evidence that you verified all that and you constantly updated it, we're good with that.
I would say that the mechanic outside the box. I mean, honestly, you could have a high school person coming in and you decide to make them an infusion pump expert. If you give them the training, qualifications, the tools, and everything else, you're just going to assess the fact that they're competent to work on that. All of a sudden, you're going to find out that the work order that they just filled out is for an anesthesia place. Might have been a problem. But I mean, that's the thing, right? Yes, Chris.
So what is my responsibility? I'm an in-house department, but I outsource imaging, some imaging, but what's my responsibility to ensure that the guy that's coming through the front door from Joe Schmo, the company, is competent to perform service?
I can answer it from a DMV standpoint. DMV and through the ISO process, ISO says you have to make sure anyone working in your control is competent. However you do that is up to you. But a lot of times when we see our hospitals, when they sign the contracts, they say upon signing of the contract, you have to provide evidence of competency, just like your folks. If they're working in our hospitals, we want to know they're competent. How does that get verified? Usually it's provided at the beginning of, or the signing of the contract, and when that changes, we provide it again. However you guys do it is up to you and the hospitals, but we're going to want to see that the hospital has verified that everybody who works in their control is competent. That's the elevator repair guys, the biomedic guys, the fire alarm inspection people, the plumbers, everybody.
Yeah, and we actually are trying to go through the ISO certification. We're starting with 9001 and then work towards 1345. And if you take that in the spirit in which it's intended in particular, that's a huge undertaking on our side to actually meet the 9001 requirement. It's not as easy as, you know, I pick up the contract, I call the vendor that I have a contract with and ask them to send me the credentials. There's a whole lot of qualification things you have to do in terms of their DOA rates or the way they handle the problems, or, I mean, there's a lot to it. I'm anticipating that's going to be the biggest challenge I'm going to have in obtaining my certification.
If you need some help, let me know.
You know what I will.
I got a question about competency.
And this is a good thing from a cybersecurity perspective as well, because these folks have VPN access to your system too.
Does your hospital require a clear, a lot of those credentials, when they sign in, the credentials are already loaded on your.
But that's only as good as what's put into it.
It is, well, any system is only as good.
That's like anything, right? It's only as good as what people do.
Would it be acceptable to say that a person is competent for a piece of equipment if they're trained to use the test equipment for that general device, like say just a blood pressure machine? You know, do they need specific training on the Welch Allen machine and the Mindrake machine and the GE and or using? Okay, you got something on that, all right.
We have a basically three-part competency assessment that we work with. So our first page on it deals with core competencies. So this is the stuff, in my opinion, you need to know in order to keep your job. So you need to know policies and procedures. You need to know how to use test equipment. You need to know hospital procedures. This is just a core requirement. Can you demonstrate it? Did you sign off on it? Did you get your annual training this year? Our next, we actually have by device type, because again, all NIPT monitors pretty much operate in the same way. You're going to test them all in the same way. So as long as you're qualified to work on one, I know at 800 I get stuck.
Yeah.
I may not know everything, I don't know everything, but I know who to call when it gets outside of my expertise.
Right.
So we rate them on a 4-point scale. Has training. I don't want to know that you've not trained, that we're going to, I've looked at it before. No, I need to know that you actually have training and that I can actually assign you a work order to you to do. And it goes all the way up to, expert, I can teach you. And when you see an expert, I can teach you, and you see somebody in your shop that is a 1 or has no experience, put those two together and let them work.
We do the same type thing with each core task as a subject matter expert. So if you're an intern or even one, you go to that subject matter expert and they sign off that this guy can do this.
Right.
So that's how we do it.
Very
Very similar.
And this should be updated as you're receiving training. You don't have to wait every year at that special time that you're required to do it, because it's been a year and we've got to have one occurring. This should be updated as you receive training. That way, when you walk in the door and you say, how do you know he's competent? The last one says he's never touched it. Well, we trained him all this year. This is actually the most current. Keep those updated.
I think you guys have found Veritex have a really unique situation where you can determine what makes you competent. There's nothing that says, nothing spelled out exactly what kind of education or degrees or experience you have to have. You get to determine that.
Yeah, I just share with you, the way I look at this thing most of the time is, and it doesn't matter whether it's an entry-level person or a very seasoned individual. I'm not going to get into titles because we all do it differently. But from my perspective, it's all around the percentage of correctives that they can do, right? I mean, so if somebody can do a PM, but really can't do much in terms of corrective, then I'm not going to tell them they're really competent. Yeah. If they can do some level of corrective, then it might be some level of competence. If they can get to the point where they can do a full-blown corrective, in fact, get to the point where they can train, or they also possess the skill to be able to go upstairs to the clinician or the physician and actually have a conversation around the ability to allow. They didn't know how to use it properly, which is why they said it's broken when it's not. Now you're a fully competent individual. So it's more than just a technical ability. And for those of you that are as old as 90, you actually could do preventive maintenance inspections at one point and make a difference. And that was one thing. But today, you're not really doing anything. Most of the devices are telling you what's wrong before they ever go wrong. And so the skill set associated with what makes somebody competent is much different today than it ever was 20, 30 years ago.
In that, we actually break out your competency level, CMS versus PMs. So corrective actions versus plan maintenance. So
I just want to know that form, if that's something that's online, and employees get it, and they're good to look at it, or
It's controlled through the managers. We give the employee copy for pre-assessment. How do you feel if you're rated? And then the manager looks at that same assessment based off what the employee says, what the employee has demonstrated in our CMS system, or by observing the employee, and then they make that determination on whether they believe that person is a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and they're competent. So that is stored in our CMS.
You guys talked about training and how, running on the program doesn't mean you necessarily have to send somebody to.
Right, and that's what I said as far as training, but we do need to train our people.
So that's good to do that in-house, but what about taking it a step further? Would you consider, so if I'm a guy who graduated from a competency program, and I come on board and I spend 4 hours in a manual learning, teaching myself basically, because let's be honest, I mean, it's nice for somebody to hold your hand and say, this is exactly what you do for this, but there are times when we simply don't get that, and the vast amount of equipment that we maintain, it's impossible. So do you guys consider that training?
The answer is, in my opinion, I just want to, my opinion is it doesn't matter where you get your information. I don't care. As long as you can demonstrate that you have confidence and that you're proficient in, as I just described a minute ago, your level in terms of the ability to do the preventive maintenance, the corrective maintenance, the ability to communicate effectively with the people that are using it, how they're using it, and understand it. As long as you can demonstrate that to your supervisor, your manager, your department head, whatever that is, then you're trained. You're confident.
I don't care if you watch it on the YouTube video. If you learn it, you can apply it effectively without assistance.
But have some evidence that you did.
Yeah.
Don't just say, I read a book and watched a YouTube video.
We do require training on that.
Do you consider like inheritance from a prior program, prior employer, this matrix, or is that just resume based?
No, again, when I'm hiring an employee off the resume, I'm going to learn about my employee, where they work, what they work on. Again, it's like an IC. If you're 30 years in the business and you're a CT specialist on Siemens and GE, I will ask for those certificates, but I'm going to have to, we're going to have some give and take on trusting and verifying on that. In this, if you are deficient, we set up a tool for actually devising a training plan. So, training plan, again, what you feel you're weak on, what you want to grow with, you work with, our managers work with our technicians. We do have, room to grow, and they provide them with a training plan. Now, again, this goes back to what Dave was saying. We also have, this mirrors our progression tool. So if you want to get to that next step from a DMED 1 to DMED 2, we set you up with a training plan so that you can be competent, learn what you need to learn in order to get to that next level and be a proficient DMED 2 so that we can promote you and again, keep great employees. It's really hard to do, is keep great employees.
I can't stress enough, seriously. Again, 40 years ago, when we were out there, a good biomed was somebody that can fix equipment, right? And so there's this huge thing that's been going on for a long time is, an extrovert biomed is a guy that looks at your shoes rather than his own when he's having a conversation. Well, there's somewhat truth to that. Again, the skill sets associated with what makes somebody competent today isn't necessarily what it was before. It's not about learning how to use an oscilloscope. It's not about learning how to use a DBM necessarily. It's about being able to go upstairs and be able to have communication with the clinician and the physician to tell them how they're not using the device right. And that's the reason why it's continually coming down as broken, and it's not, which means it's out of service, they're not able to use it for what they need it for, and potentially could cause harm to the patient. So the skill sets that are needed and have to be driven through the competencies need to be evaluated on a regular basis. That's an opportunity for each of you to figure out what that looks like.
So, our OA mandate, hospitals comply with these regulations. Now, again, this goes back to your state main line. The New York email from New York? No? All right, so, yeah. All right, so federal and state law may require facilities. More stringent, so it may require an OEM. So what is required? Again, federal, state, more stringent imaging, radiological equipment, medical lasers, and equipment that's too new to replace it on a, so we don't have any history. What does that mean, no history? Does that mean they put out a new UV light? New technology.
So to go back to the gentleman's question, I know he's talking about education and training, but the fact is it's the same deal. Just because your hospital brings something in new, doesn't mean it's new to the industry. And if you can get evidence that shows that people aren't, have got it in their AEM program, then that's good enough for you too. We don't know. The new technology that hasn't existed, there isn't any history. History doesn't have to be just from you. Now, the challenge obviously is that you bring it in for your program and then you start watching it, but you start looking for repeat failure analysis and whatnot, but it's okay to accept public people's information.
Yes.
Exactly.
That other people's, I mean, it could be Amy, it could be, ECRI, number of resources. We are, national, well, technically international, and I can again, across the board rank it as an AEM, but you as the local hospital are required to review your local assessment. So just because across the board it's working well at your individual site, if you're seeing an uptick in plant maintenance preventable issues, you can increase the frequency. So we empower our managers to keep their facilities safe, even at a national level. We don't see any statistically significant evidence of having any issues.
That's really important because your climate could cause equipment not to work the way it's designed to. Your humidity, your temperatures, just the environment around your hospital could be different than any other.
The residents in your teaching facilities,
That's right.
all kinds of things.
That's right.
Yeah, did I get my marks on this?
And to Jason's point, we do allow people to increase frequency, they're not allowed to decrease. We set the standard for the brand. One of the advantages of being in the ISO world is the fact that we're dealing with hundreds of thousands, millions of pieces of equipment. So we have a pretty good base to draw from. So I mean, that's the advantage to us in terms of looking at that type of information.
So, what the Joint Commission says, activities and frequencies, it's a repeat. I'm not going to repeat the slide.
All our standards are repeats.
Maybe the Joint Commission in here that will say. All right. So, CMS considers that AEM hospitals may under certain conditions use equipment maintenance activities and frequencies that differ from the original equipment manufacturer. An AEM program must be based on general accepted practice, standards and practice for facility and medical equipment maintenance. AMI, ANSI standard 56 and EQ 56. I've got it written down somewhere. I shouldn't have to remember that stuff in my head. Yeah, 5699, 2013, and there's one more. And I did write that down. So, again, general accepted practices, determine whether it's safe to perform facility and medical equipment maintenance without following the equipment manufacturers. And hospitals must maintain records of qualifications of hospital personnel who make the decision to place the device on AEM. So, for all of you that have an AEM, you keep your qualifications ready, posted. Very much similar qualifications as far as working on a medical device. You've got to be competent in order to make that assessment. You don't necessarily have to be an expert level, but you have to know what data you're going to look at to place the device on AEM. You're going to look at reliability. How often does it break down? You're going to look at planned maintenance activities that could have been, or CMs that could have been prevented had we either added a step to the planned maintenance task, or had we done it more frequently. So again, quick analysis, you have tons of UPSs in your hospital. Manufacturer says 2 years is good, but you notice that it dies every 18 months. You're gonna replace it in 18 months. You're gonna make that change. You're gonna increase that frequency.
I'd be curious as to, do you guys track it differently? If during the middle of a PM, you end up having to do a repair, do you track that to see if you should be changing the frequencies associated with your preventive maintenance? Does anybody actually do that?
Yes.
A lot of people don't do that.
Huh?
A lot of people don't do that.
No, I know a lot of people, that's why I asked the question. I mean, but here's the value of it, right? So this just helps support your position. If you made a decision for the program in, you made the decision. I hate to say this out loud, but most of the time people are doing it because they're trying to find ways to reduce the resource requirement, right? So that's fine, as long as it's validated, it's there. But if you're truly interested in providing safety, if you're tracking when you're doing the PM, you also have to do a corrective maintenance, and you track that differently, you might be inclined to, up the frequency just that. Conversely, if you can have it where when you finally get around to doing it once a year and you've never had a problem, you might want to reduce it a little bit, but you should be tracking this differently in whatever way that looks like for you. What we typically do is see it's a PM with a repair. So it's different than a PM, it's not a corrective maintenance, it's a PM with a repair.
Because, sorry, but the other way too, if you've got things that you decide, hey, we're gonna pull these back, we're deciding we're not going to put in maintenance on these. It helps to put it for corrective maintenance, like when they come down the shop, if you think a PM could have prevented this failure, to note that and you're seeing the mess however you can, and use that data to take a look at your AEM priority to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Our CMMS package right now currently allows us to look, I can look at a global scale or individual site and see what was PM preventable, frequency or task. So, and we also track incidents. Was there any patient or staff incidents that occurred in that device? I'm not going to really get, we have AEM programs going on, so I'm not going to get too in depth with that. But note that AEMs are great programs. They can be used to minimize your labor involved with that.
Yeah, it is a great program, but I really suggest there's nothing that says this is required, but I would highly suggest you make sure your senior leadership know you've got an AEM program and what's on it and what the frequencies are. You don't want them caught off guard when something does go wrong, and they say, we didn't know this.
Or the inspector walks in and literally asks the administration, are you aware of the fact that somebody in your program and what that means? Because they can, and when the C-suite looks at what we talked about, that's not going to be good.
I'm just wondering, like, where it says a document, does that mean that for every device in the AEM plan, you need to keep records and evidence on how that decision was made?
We track it. We can track it all the way down to a singular model. We do a hierarchy where we look at the broad device description or device type when we do an AM, which is why we also allow our sites to cater it more towards their specific model. If they have a model that breaks down more frequently than what is, we've noted as the reliability index, they can adjust it to where they can increase that by maintenance frequency or add a task to get that moving forward.
The answer to your question is yes, and the reason for that primarily is because on a regular basis, you need to go back and validate that justification still exists. That's huge. That's huge. That's because otherwise what ends up happening is you're into this thing for 3 years, and all of a sudden you get inspection. Somebody goes, well, what was your rationale and reason for that? Isn't a good answer.
So, alternative way, and that's going to be like we're trying to, or does it have to be?
It can be whatever you define it as, just so long as whatever you do, you can justify, you can explain it, you can show that it's consistent and that you're sticking to it. They may come back and suggest ways to do it differently, but you have the flexibility as long as your hospital says it's okay to do whatever you want. Fair?
Fair, and leadership needs to be involved.
And the CMS actually does call out best practices as far as what you should be looking for. The 2018 version of this right here, the language comes exactly from, I've got a reference on the slide, from the CMS guidance and interpretation for 2018. And it lists what you should be looking for to achieve for an AEM program. Again, we already have classes going on in the AEM program, so I decided to
Liz,
I was just wondering, because I feel like part of the problem is the manufacturers, is there any pressure being put on them to decrease pin schedules? So I feel like as technology's gotten better, the pin schedules have stayed the same. It's like, that's why we as a field don't want to do pins as much, because we know they're not effective in a lot of cases. So I think if we started with them to say, look, if it's not going to fail, why are you still doing it? Manuals that we need to do pins every 6 months or whatever. We know the failure rates are going to be less because technology is better.
So the short answer to your question is no, and the reason for that is because of liability, right? Manufacturers create devices and have lawyers that sit in their offices, and they're gonna do what they have to do to keep themselves from having any liability. So that's why the greatest thing the CMS has ever done for us is given us the ability to do what we do, and to make it so that we have the flexibility to go outside of what the manufacturer is suggesting. But I don't believe they would ever be willing to do that, because then they are saying, I own that responsibility, and saying that you don't have to do it. And with the stuff that's going on with the FDA, more likely going to get worse before it gets better.
No, the thing that I have seen, certain devices over the years go from quarterly to semi-annually to annually. I mean, look at anesthesia units. I mean, those are a prime example. Defibrillators, we used to do those quarterly. Now we do this semi-annually. Personally, I've not seen one break that much that we would even really do it semi-annually. But it's also a comfort level with the staff. And what they're willing to go after.
Good question. Are you currently using utilization rates or utilization data across your devices?
So are you currently utilization rates across your devices to determine your decision making? Unfortunately, utilization rates for most equipment, other than imaging that can be documented, are very hard to obtain unless you have a real-time tracking system that allows for that. Anybody else that would?
A lot of the newer equipment now will have computer-based, of course, which tell you the usage hours-wise, case-wise, depending on what it logs within the system. We came up with a program looking at our tracking our failure rates, the mean time between failure, coupled with the usage and utilization rates as you referred to. They determined an AEM based off of that and say, well, the manufacturer recommend the annual, the FDA says annual. Well, we're seeing a lot of failures more frequently than that. By going to a 70 to semi-annual PM cycle on certain types of equipment, we see a significant reduction in failures. I mean significant, from maybe a 17% down to 2%, just by seeing the system one more time during the year. And we did that based on utilization, as well as what we were experiencing from the repair standpoint or repair for PM.
That's a great example of what works.
It's tremendous.
So I think that's easier to do for the hospital than the manufacturer, and there's less liability.
And I would just say that utilization is a great factor. You can do it, you can track it, you can do it. Mine's more around criticality, right? And criticality is defined in many ways. Right? If I only got one defibrillator in the entire hospital, that could be pretty damn critical. If I got 75 of them, maybe not so much. If I got one CT, it's in the ER, could be pretty critical. I mean, so criticality to me takes more of a role than utilization per se. Yeah, it's great.
All right, so we got 10 minutes and we got about 10 slides left, so we're going to run through some of these. All right, what the Joint Commission says about AEMs is, again, they're great, you can use them. ANSI 56, 2013 recommended practice for medical management programs. Medical equipment with activities associated with frequency, 100%. And high risk and non-high risk must be called out. I personally think call out OEM high and low risk. I'm not even sure why we do that now, seeing how everybody has to be at 100%, other than you know what is high risk, what is non-high risk, and what requires an OEM frequency. Qualification of individuals used for criteria. Again, how is equipment used, including serious prevalence of normal use, likely consequence of equipment fails, ability or availability of alternative equipment or backup equipment. History, identical or similar equipment, and maintenance requirements of the equipment. So, again, if you've got battery replacement, you've got to do every 2 years. If you schedule it biannually, you're going to go. There's nothing that says, CMS says that you can't go biannually or triannually if you have the justification behind that. In CMS's guidelines for this, they actually call out interval based. So if anybody take care of beds, have a hard time finding beds, your risk assessment can tell you that your bed frequency can be between 12 and 24 months if you've risk ranked it and can improve it. So you can check it anytime in the next year to 2 years. Identify medical equipment on its inventory is included in the AEM and a written procedure to follow in medical equipment fails, including emergency medical intervention and backup. Intervention is more on the clinical side than what we do. We provide solutions though. So, going to really hit these really quick. Preventive maintenance, we call that planned maintenance or it's depending on where you are, it changes around. Performance maintenance, it's time-based, so yearly, semi-annually, quarterly, you're going to go look at it. Predictive maintenance, you've noticed that every 4 months it fails, then you're going to go look at it in 4 months. Reactive maintenance, or run to fail, corrective maintenance, so suction regulators, I'm not going to check them until they die. You're going to tell me when it stops intermittently sucking or when it stops sucking. There's tons of them in the hospital. Grab one, stick it in, send that one down, we'll take a look. Reliability center maintenance. Again, the strategy not only considers equipment condition, but also unique to individual pieces of equipment. So again, we can cater individual pieces to the So equipment inventory, all hospital medical equipment, regardless of whether it's leased, owned, or regardless of whether it's maintained according to the manufacturer or is an inventory program, is expected to be listed on inventory, which includes a record of maintenance activities. If the hospital is using AEM, the equipment managed through the program must be regularly separated, identified as subject to AEM. Critical equipment, whether it's AEM or program or not, should also be identified. So, to facilitate effective management, again, what are we going to have on our devices? The more the better for me. Minimum for the CMS. Identification number, equipment manufacturer, model, serial number, description, location, service provider, acceptance stage, and any additional information the hospital believes is pertinent. Not what you, but the hospital believes. So if the hospital says, I need all the MAC addresses, and you're like, but IT takes care of that, you're going to have all the MAC addresses. You're going to have the IPs if they deem it necessary. The more the better, for me.
If you rent a medical device and it's an AEM device in your program, do you treat that rented device the same as your AEM program, or do you?
Same. Once it comes in the hospital, you own it. You have a responsibility to make sure that it meets the criteria. It could make the case you might want to increase it just a little bit, but at least at a minimum.
D&D is kind of different from as far as joint commission is concerned on what joint commission expects for rental equipment. D&D wants you to close the loop. It came in, that's great. I see where it came in. Show me where it left. How do you know it left? We communicated. Was the service completed? Did you follow up?
And
so I don't know about you guys, but that's one of the biggest thorn in my sides on whether or not a device is left, because the physician brings it in, physician does one case, physician leaves, never tells us that he left with the device. So that's something that most places can work on. Again, I advise adding it to your program as an asset, scheduling it, like you consider short term, 6 months, adding it to your inventory, schedule PM for 6 months, verify that it's there or not there, and then you can complete your again, joint commission can maintain the written inventory of medical equipment or a written inventory of selected equipment categories by physical risk, including life support. The hospital evaluates all new types of equipment before initial use. Again, be actively involved in your hospital's capital equipment program or minor capital program. Have a say, have a voice at the table. Don't look at just what they can offer or how much that initial cost is. Look at the total service cost. Identify high-risk medical equipment on inventory for which there's serious risk of patient or death. Now, you can't remember if you guys call it off the top of my head. You call out the difference between critical and not critical.
We do, but it's not mandated, it's up to the hospital to determine how it's gonna be done.
Right, there's nothing that says that this will be
Right.
critical, so, yes. All right, so collect information for monitoring. Establishing process for continual monitoring, this is your commission. Everybody does an annual program review based off their community annual evaluation. See how well you're doing, how you're improving the whole quality of your program, the safety of the patients and the users. This is where you're going to look at those PIs and determine whether or not you want to keep it or you want to mix it for the following year and do something new. Again, if you're at 100%, find something that needs to be improved and worked on. Based on established processes, report investigating medical problems, failures, and errors. Again, this goes back to being in your AEM program if it's AEM eligible, or if it's OEM, increasing the frequency because the OEM got it wrong. And every 12 months, evaluate again your FME. So these are my references that we use for this entire program.
Questions?
Questions?
I got two quick questions for you guys. I want to know two things. One, what's your percentage of documentation rate? Shout out numbers.
100%.
Documentation.
100%. 100%.
Everybody else, anybody got less than that?
Very neat.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave you with as a thought. I like 100%, the whole thing around that. Last thing, quick question, I'd like to know, PMs, task this. Do you include them or not include them?
Did you say taxes?
Task, the TASKS, task, my Boston accent coming up.
Included.
So you include them? So who has the responsibility to maintain and make sure they're always up to date, the right level?
The technicians doing them.
How do you ensure your management quality function that you use on the documentation? There's too much here on a certain grade.
Yeah. That's my biggest fear. Well, I hope you thought it was valuable in any way, shape, or form, but any questions, comments, anything from anybody?
One thing, maybe one of them I stepped out, but I know D&B, they require you to, when you do, testing the equipment, that you document that piece of testing.
Yeah, that's an
We
ISO.
do, we require traceability to the test equipment. Now, there's a lot of consultants out there saying that we require traceability up to the patient. That's not true, it's just to the test equipment.
And that's nice, more so than.
That is ISO.
Well, they have to, yes, thank you all for your time, enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Oh, you thought-